and welcome to Jen's Ink Spot. I want to share with you a few new dies that Frantic Stamper has recently released and show you how you can use these dies. At first glance, they seem very similar, but yet they do different things. And so today I want to show you just a few ideas on how you can use them and how they are different. Let's start with the swing card dies. There's a scallop circle and a scallop square in both collections. And today I want to start with a scallop circle die. When you open your packaging up, this is what your die will look like. It cuts this scallop, half scallop circle here, and then there's two little guide pieces. These pieces not only serve as a great guide, but they also score into your paper. I want to show you how I created this card. It's like a tint card. So here's the scallop circle shape that this die cut. Then when you open the card up, you can also see the scallop on the inside of that as well. So the way that I created this card is I first took a piece of cardstock and I scored it in half. Now, if you don't want the score lines here all the way through on your scallop circle, then you will not want to score your card all the way across. And I will show you why after I cut this. It'll make more sense. So if you're not wanting those lines to show, then what you want to do is just score just a tiny little bit, like maybe 1/4 of an inch on each side, so that you know where to line your die up. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your die, going to put it where your guidelines are, where you've scored it at. Going to tape it down so it doesn't move. I like to use this Post-it note tape. It is perfect for holding dies down to paper. Very rarely, if you're careful, it will not tear your paper. So I'm going to run this through my die cut machine. All right, I'm going to take this off, and when I've die cut, here's what I have. You can see right here the score line, and like I said, if you don't want that, don't score your paper all the way through to the middle. So now what I'm going to do to recreate this card, you can see that my scallop here, I have layered. My paper is originally off-white, and this has a complete covering over the scallop circle. Now when I showed you the bump card scallop circle dies earlier, you'll notice that there's 2 scallop circles included in that set. Those do coordinate with this set, but they don't completely match to make this scallop circle, and I'll show you why. Here's one cut with the smallest circle. You can see how nicely it layers on top of the circle that it cuts. So if you're interested in a piece that just layers on top, this is perfect. Now for this particular card, I wanted my entire scallop cut. The largest scallop in the bump card scallop circle set doesn't match up perfectly. You can see it's a little bit littler. It does layer nicely, but for this card, I want that border all the way around, so you can see that it's not quite the right size to do that with. So what I did was I needed to create my own scallop circle, and there's an easy way to do that using the die that you just cut with. So what I'm going to do now, actually I've already prepped this. I die cut half the circle onto the piece of paper that I'm going to layer this card with. So here you can see that I've done that. So now what I'm going to do is, you can see where the guides are scored into the paper from when I die cut this once. I'm going to take the die and I'm going to line it up exactly where those guides are. And then I'm going to run this through my die cut machine again. All right, after I've run this through my die cut machine, I'll carefully remove this tape and take my die off, and I have my scallop, and this is off just a tiny little bit. Usually I get it perfect, so I'm just going to snip it just a hair, and then if I take it to my card, you'll see, if I line it up just right, that it lines up perfectly with the scallop that my circle cut earlier. So there you have your layered scallop. Now something else I wanted to show you with this card is that this card that I made fits perfectly inside an A2 envelope with the scallop up. Now in order to do that, you can see that this card is way too tall to fit inside of a circle. So I did have to trim this down a little bit. There you can see the size difference. Now the scallop square die works exactly the same way, but I want to show you a few other ways that you can use these dies. Doesn't matter if you use them at the circle or the square, it works the same way. So here what I've done is made a little place card. What I did was I took just a regular sized card mat. So this is measured 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches long. And all I did was I scored it in half. Then I took my scallop square swing die and I did just like I did the circle. I taped it onto the front and then I cut it. And when I took it out of my die cut machine, it cuts this. So here you can see the front and there's the back. Now for this, I did reinforce it with a little strip of cardstock so that it would stay up nicely and not fall. To decorate the front, I die cut one of the scallop squares that's included in the bump card scallop square die, because like I said with the circles, they work perfectly together. They layer very nicely. I die cut one of those squares, and then I used one of my favorite Frantic stamper die sets, the Wreath and Swag component sets. This is a set that can be used all year long. So I used that to decorate my scallop. Now there's several things I can do with this. I could layer it just like this onto my card front. I could do it at an angle like this. And then once it's layered on there and I have it attached, I could stamp the name of the person who's going to sit there, or I could stamp whatever food is in the bowl that I'm wanting to label, or I could stamp a greeting. Whatever you want to do, you can label that on there and you have a nice place setting. The other idea that you can use with this is just take a regular card front like this and take your die and die cut. It comes out of your machine, it looks like this, and you have kind of a flip open little secret panel type interactive element for your card. When you layer it behind another card front, then you have this. So you can decorate behind here. You could have a little image peeking out from behind. You could have a sentiment in there. But it's just a fun interactive element that you can use these dies to create. All right, now I want to tell you about the bump card dies. These dies work kind of opposite of the dies I just showed you. Let me show you what I mean. These are the dies that are included in the set. There's 3 of them. Same as the circles, you get your bump card die, and then you get 2 scallop squares. And I've used these dies to create this card. Now, what is different? Well, before the scallop square die cut this part, and then it embossed the little guides. This one, instead of embossing here, it actually cuts. Where these long straight lines are, that's a cut line. And so instead of scoring so you can fold, it trims off whatever part you're wanting to get rid of. This is the card I created using that idea. When you open the card up, this is what the flap looks like. You can see here that it die cut, and then it cut this line also. So it gives it a nice smooth finish. And then when you open it up, it looks like this. I have a gift card inside. When I take the gift card out, I have used half of the scallop as decoration around my sentiment here. And the sentiment is one of the sentiments in the new Farmyard release. Also note that these little half moons Those are dies that are included in the pop-up bases stamp set, which I've done a video on before. There's 2 sizes that you can use, and they're perfect for holding gift cards or little messages inside your cards. And so here I've used those to hold my gift card, and the gift card just pops right inside there, and then you close it and it stays in there. I'm going to take it out for now. Now, to decorate the front of my card, I needed to have something that my flap could stick underneath. So I used this little barn that's included in the new release. I used the little fence and then another sentiment from the Barnyard stamp sets. I used this scallop square on top of the square that I already cut so that it would be a little bit longer than this square, and it would tuck nicely under my barn. Now, if you're going to recreate this card measures 4 1/4 this way, and then it measures 10 5/8. I trimmed it, just a little bit of it off, but you can use a regular 11-inch size cardstock for this. So basically, if you're going to score it, you're going to score at the 4 1/4 mark. And then I like to flip it over, and then you're going to score at the 2 1/2-inch mark. And that creates your score lines for this card. And then what I did was I lined up my square in the middle, but you can also do it down low or you could do it up high, and then I die cut. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the bump card scallop circle. It works identically to the scallop square. Rather than using a square, you're using a circle. For this card, since I wanted to secure my flap down somehow, which you do not have to do, but I just think it's fun, I use twine to tie it shut. Like that. And this is what it looks like when you open it. This little piece of twine goes through this circle here. When you shut it, you can pull it tighter. Just like that. This card is scored pretty much the same way. I scored it at the 3-inch mark and the 7 1/4 mark. You can see when it cuts that I've cut the circle down low instead of in the middle. And then I layered it with the largest scallop circle die, which is a perfect match for the circle that it cuts. One more idea on how to use this circle dies, you can make a card like this. It can go this way or it can be turned this way. And the little bump here kind of serves as just an added addition. I haven't decorated this card. This was a pattern made by Kathy. I want to show you quickly how you score this card to make this design. So to start, you're going to score your card at 1 1/4. And then you're going to score your card at 3 3/8. And on my little score buddy, there isn't a 3 3/8 to score at. So the easy way to do this is if I move my paper over 1/8 of an inch, using this guide on this side, I'm going to score at the 3 1/2-inch mark. Then I'm going to flip this card over to the other side, and I'm going to score at 2 1/8. I'm going to die cut here. Right, this is what it looks like when I'm finished die cutting. And so then I have this little card with a flap that you can decorate. Here I put it in the middle, but on this card you can see that I did it up higher. Thank you for joining me today at Jen's Ink Spot. Be sure to check out my blog and Frantic Stamper store page. Thanks for joining me.